Deep Rock Galactic Survivors has been a fantastic game, and I wanted to share with you just a couple things that are going to be very helpful as you begin playing this game. While this isn't a very spoiler-heavy type of game where there's not really a lot to spoil, if stuff like that matters to you, definitely probably don't watch through. We're going to have to go over a couple key features of the game that might ruin it for you. So if you're the type of person that wants to go in blind, I'll miss you. Come back after you've played a little bit. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing that I want to mention to everybody is that this game definitely has some of the hardest difficulty scaling that I've ever ran into in a Survivor type game. So please do not feel bad if you're having a terrible time as you move up the hazard ranks. The difficulty definitely scales exponentially, and there are definitely certain weapons that are significantly harder to use than others. So just don't feel bad, alright? Going forward with actual helpful things. The first and most important thing, honestly, is to use the supply drop beacon as your boss killer, basically. If you've been paying attention, maybe you've ran into this a couple of times. When the supplied beacon comes down and the drop finally hits the ground, it pretty much explodes and kills, I would say, about everything in the first 50% of that circle from the center. You can use this to take out any single mob that exists in the game outside of the dreadnought, but even with the dreadnought, it's going to hit it for about a third to a half of its HP. So if you're doing maybe a challenge where you have to get a certain weapon to a certain level, and maybe you're using one of the weaker weapons, in my opinion, like the shotgun, for example, that you start with as the Tinkerer. This is a weapon that only shoots straight, so it shoots in the direction that you're walking. And maybe it's a little bit better if you're playing this game with a controller, but the diagonals are a little difficult when it comes to using a mouse and keyboard. So this is one of my least favorite weapons, unless you get say the plasma upgrade, or there's an upgrade that makes it shoot in front of you as well as in the opposite direction from where you're facing. Those make it great. It's a high damage weapon. It's just a little difficult to actually aim and hit the mobs that you're looking for when you're getting chased by 1,000 different mobs. So I always make sure that I do not take the supply drop until the last mob is spawned. And for the most part, if I finish, collecting materials, collecting resources, and I'm ready to go, that's when I'll call it in, and I will drop it on top of the elite that spawns at the end because it will one-shot it no matter what. I just advise you to clear out the area for the supply beacon drop before it's that last second, because sometimes, I'm sure we've all ran into this situation, you're basically just kind of screwed over. You don't really have the best weapons in the game right now, you're a little weak and you're not able to clear things out. And so when you go to the supply drop, there's half of it covered by rock, and you're gonna have to mine that out. If you're the driller with the first tier, you're gonna be fine probably. You'll be able to mine it pretty quickly. But if you're most of the other characters and you're not really focusing on mining speed, you're gonna have a bad time. So make sure you clear it out first, and then you drop it on the elite. And then, like I said, you're gonna want to do the same thing with the dreadnought. Make sure you clear out the area where the supply drop is gonna be, lead the dreadnought over to it, and drop it right on it, because that is going to be such a huge help for you in the early game, especially if you're just, again, using weaker weapons that you might not have the most upgrades for. You just want to make sure with the dreadnought, it does have that leap ability, so it'll stop for a second and it'll jump in the direction that it's facing. Make sure that it's not about to just leap, because I've missed it a couple times and that's very depressing. Now on to the second thing. This is something that I never actually followed my own advice for, but I do think it's very important, and that's going to be to upgrade the weapons as quickly as possible. This isn't for the weapons that you have unlocked already that you're able to, level up to 18 and you get those attachments for. This is for any of the new weapons that you get. Don't worry about the stats that you're giving it. You just want to get it to level 12 as quickly as possible so that you're able to unlock it in that next game with all those attachments on it. I do hope that they add in the ability to get those upgrades on a weapon that you just unlocked if you unlock the weapon in the game. But that's probably a little bit of a stretch. But just go out of your way to upgrade it as quick as possible. I can't tell you how many times I've been, 90% of the way through the run, and I realized that I didn't keep upgrading that one weapon that I need to unlock, and it's level 9. You're on the dreadnought level, and I'm sure a lot of you noticed the dreadnought level, you don't have a lot of time to really gain a lot of experience. It's not spawning a ton of the higher level mobs, it's mostly small dudes and the dreadnought. And you're more focused on dodging the dreadnought than you are really farming. If your build's cracked and you're doing a lot of AoE or something like that, maybe you'll be able to get it, but then on top of that, you still have to rely on luck to actually get the correct upgrade for the correct weapon. So just focus on those first 2 stages or 3 stages to get that weapon to unlock as quickly as possible. Yeah, this might directly impact your run and you might lose the run just because you're doing that, but you're going to have a significantly better time the next time you get that weapon in every single one of your runs. And that's why I think it's so important. Those upgrades are quintessential to how much damage you're going to be doing and how you're going to be able to play the game. So make sure you upgrade the weapons as quickly as possible and you will see greater returns in the long run. And you only have to do it once, so that's also the nice thing about it. The third thing I want to talk about is just to not focus too much on the materials that are in the map, basically. There are a couple items that you'll get from the supply drop that directly have to do with, say, how much nitro you have or how much gold that you have. And in those situations, you might be a little bit more encouraged to go and get materials like gold and nitro. But for the most part, I would say definitely in the beginning of the game, while you're just starting, you're just kind of ranking up your units, you're unlocking the other classes, you're getting new guns and stuff like that. Being able to purchase those upgrades in between each stage isn't really that, it's not that important, honestly. You're able to clear it without them. It's nice when you're able to purchase them, and it's especially nice when you're able to purchase them when you're trying to upgrade the gun to the max level. But 9 times out of 10, especially early on, if you're not focusing on mining, you're going to take a lot of damage that you could have avoided if it wasn't for the fact that you didn't go for the nitro or the gold. And that's not to say that it's terrible for you to go for it if you have a lot of time, but those resources, they don't stay with you across the missions. And while you might miss out on, say, one upgrade, maybe there'll be like a legendary in the store or something like that, it's not going to make or break your run. But what is your HP. So if you're able to get the gold to heal yourself, I do think that is more important. While there is a lot of that red sugar candy across the map, it is finite and it's definitely limited. So especially when you're on the dreadnought level, those materials aren't really that important. And this goes for the unique materials as well. The unique materials are what you're going to be using to upgrade your stats while you're in the main lobby. These stat upgrades are going to stay with you across every single mission, and so they're a little bit more important than anything else. And I messed around and tried to see if it would be better for me to sell all my other materials, focus on one stat, versus just upgrading things as I get it. And I recommend you just upgrade them as things come up. They scale exponentially, and I mean like they scale exponentially. The first half is pretty quick, but after that, it's going to take you multiple missions to actually get enough material to do the upgrades. And then on top of that, you're really going to be able to afford one upgrade per run, basically. And that's if you both have the materials needed as well as the gold, because you're limited by gold as well. Some of the later upgrades cost around like 5,000, and you're not really getting that much gold per run. So don't stress yourself too much. If there's a material that is in the middle of the map and you're surrounded, you don't need to worry about it. You'll find it again in other runs. As you go up in hazard levels, there's more materials as well. And eventually you're going to be able to do driller runs that just focus on getting materials. So don't stress yourself about it. You'll get them as they come. Now, the fourth thing, and this one's probably one of the most unique things that has to do specifically with this game that I've really enjoyed, and that's going to be to use the mobs to your advantage. There's unique grubs that you're able to run into, and two of them, the exploding ones and the green ones, which are the Praetorians, those guys can help you do a lot. And this kind of goes with number 3 because this has to do with resources. So the exploding grubs, once you get in a certain range from them, they'll start to shake and then they'll explode. You're very easily able to walk into the range that they're going to start exploding and then walk away and have them explode. Doesn't matter what class you are, you'll always have enough movement speed unless you're doing something where you have reduced movement speed. But very rarely are you going to have that item unless you're doing a really specific build, so I wouldn't stress myself about it. But you can use these guys, as well as the exploding like sacks that are on the magma level, to clear a large majority of the map for you. And on top of that, you can use them to thin out the wave, basically. A lot of the times when the swarm spawns, you're going to get surrounded. You're going to be running probably in a straight line, breaking through a lot of walls and stuff like that to get away and kind of make a loop or a train, similar to what you did in zombies. And what you'll do is you'll move back towards them, get in that range for them to explode, and then run away. And a lot of the times after the second or the third one, everything is so close to dying that you'll explode like 15 of them at the same time. And that's going to wipe the whole wave. It's a really easy way for you to clear out grubs, get experience, even if your weapons are pretty rough. Now, the next thing that you could do with both of them, the Praetorian and the exploding grub, is to run them through resources. Basically, just walk around the map, find the resources that you're looking for, whether that's nitro, whether that's gold, or it's the unique resources, and just make sure that they have to go through that path. The Praetorians are actually able to break the walls and rock. They're able to break any material, it doesn't matter what it is. And if you just use those guys to walk through it, then you just go in a circle, come back to it, and you're able to pick those resources up off the ground. They don't ever disappear. It's not something that is only, on the ground for a certain amount of time. It'll be there for the whole stage. And that's why I think it's important for you to not worry too much about mining them, because you're able to use so many different resources to break these things that you don't have to risk your HP or getting surrounded to get these resources. It's especially fun when you get one of the elite Praetorians, which is the mobs that spawn at the end of the map, but it's the Praetorian grub, because those guys can dig really, really fast. So definitely lead them through everything and just get really good at looping. Now, this last thing, it's going to seem minor, but I do think that it is very important, and that's just going to be to use your map. The map is actually really important. It'll tell you where the edges are, it'll tell you where the resources are, and it'll tell you where to do the quests that you might have. Every single stage, you'll have a quest, and I highly recommend doing them, especially early on, because they'll give you a full level basically for free. Now on the map, you're able to see resources very easily. Any resources that is a white dot, those are going to be resources that you need for your quest. So this is going to be those little mushrooms, it's going to be those flowers, or it could be the morkite. So make sure you're looking at your map, because it'll tell you exactly where these things are, and it'll make it really easy for you to finish your quests. Now on top of that, you're also able to use it to more easily find resources, because this is going to show the red sugar candy, this is going to show golden nitra, and it's going to show those unique materials that you need to upgrade your stats. And it's really easy to differentiate which ones are which. Golden nitra are always in large groups, and the unique resources are generally by themselves. Same things with the blood sugar candy. So just make sure you're looking at your map so that you're able to see where these are and you're able to make better decisions on basically where you're going. Another really huge thing about the map is a lot of the times when it comes to the swarms, I like to make sure that I'm stuck in basically a dead end. The reason why I do this is because then all of the mobs have to walk around in a circle and get in a line, basically. So this is going to make it easier for you to just kind of traverse the rest of the map, because they're not basically all around you. So you get into a dead end, you make sure that you have a wall that you're able to break next to you, and then once they get close enough, you just break through that wall, and then this whole group is going to be stuck behind you going significantly slower. Now, if you're using certain weapons like the turrets and the flamethrowers, the flame turrets, which is the Krakatoa turret's best name ever, these are super good in those enclosed spaces, especially in dead ends. A lot of the times, if your turrets are upgraded enough, you can clear out the whole swarm just by standing in the same location or leading them down very narrow paths. And the map is going to be a huge, huge, huge helper there, because it'll tell you where every single landmass is on the map, as well as any type of blocker like the red vines on the jungle map or the lava on the magma caverns. You get a lot of information from it, and it honestly turns into a game where I'm looking at the map a lot more than I am the screen, really, because it's just going to be easier to path while you're using the map versus looking down. Obviously, you have to make sure there's no mobs in front of you, but I would argue that the map is probably one of your most important resources, and I just want to make sure that you guys are using it. That's going to wrap up everything, guys. I might create a couple videos in regards to like weapons to use, what kind of supply drop upgrades you might want to focus on, and if there's something in particular that you want to know about the game, let me know down below and I'll do my best to answer the question. If that's kind of stuff that you want to look into, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. It's really appreciated, and as always, I hope to see you on the next one.